Hey, it is your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. And we're zooming in and focusing in on a great viewer question. And that was to really look at kind of side by side the qualities of a narcissist versus a borderline, a quiet borderline or female. And, can these types of individuals become violent? Or, what is the distinguishing feature within the diagnoses? And so I just want to bring up a quick point to that. And so thank you so much for your question. And we really are here to help make you empowered harmonizers here, to give you the knowledge, to give you the wisdom, to help you to improve your understanding and your perspective that really makes a difference in your everyday life. We're here really to give you the results. So I want to go into a little bit of the facts and data of that. So yes, when we talk about the psychopathic population, oftentimes, generally, males are defined or categorized or diagnosed as psychopathic more than females because they tend to be more the violent bunch that get themselves into trouble, domestic violence, breaking and entering, the list goes on, which lends them into incarceration. Whereas the females tend to use their manipulation in much different ways, although high risk, oftentimes aren't like the violent in nature. They can be emotionally manipulative in a very aggressive, violent way. I mean, aggressive way, I would say. And then because they're females, they tend to, become less identified as such because they don't have the same, it presents in a different way. But those people who have engaged with them and who have been hurt are oftentimes in quite a disarray and disrepair because of their aggressiveness, because of their relentlessness to, target people and overstimulate or hyper-arouse them or get them into feelings of really a fear or intimidation because of, the fact that they won't stop at anything and they'll do things very underhanded, very sly. These stalking behaviors, things of that nature, which are very covert in nature. And so, it can be very, very disruptive to people and can go on for years until you really put an end to that situation. And so, and also now when we talk about the quiet borderline, I know that there's a lot of information on that. And, the borderline, and you can have kind of comorbidity or where you're presenting symptomology of both categories. So I'm not here to diagnose and treat mental disorders. I'm here to discuss and present and support. But when we talk about the quiet borderline, these are the individuals who tend to act in their aggression or self-loathing. So the borderline oftentimes can, be very sort of, explosive or unpredictable in their rage where, all of a sudden things are going along and then they'll lash out with a comment, an aggressiveness, a seemingly, black and white hatred where, you thought everything was stable and then the things are flipped, the couch is flipped in a moment's notice. So on the quiet borderline though, it's often turned inward where this sort of self-loathing becomes then self-injury or self-sabotage to the extent where, they literally, end up hurting themselves, to the acts of self-carving, self-mutilation, a lot of the excessive tattoos, the nose piercings, the piercings all over the body. It's an acting in of aggression, this sort of very uncomfortable self-loathing for them, where it becomes so uncomfortable that they have to act on these impulses. And so, the borderline, oftentimes does not have control over this. And so there's different therapies, schemata therapy, where they're able, cognitive therapy, where, these individuals can then be taught to kind of look at things in a new way and then see with a higher perspective, like as I teach here, to expect, or to see when these, triggers are coming, and then to kind of change the story around it so they don't interpret things in the same way. So they're able to then interpret things in a more positive nature and avoid those aggressive outbursts or inbursts, if you will, where they're sort of, doing these things. And so it does take ongoing self-learning, self-knowledge, self-help, especially for these individuals. But, you're going to see, kind of a graying of the lines. There's many shades of gray, like a viewer here had brought up. People don't fit into, little shiny metal boxes, little boxes with like, you have this, you have this, you have this. There's a whole array and spectrum and shades of gray and pronouncements. So especially with personalities, these, can be rigid. Some people can have very rigid personalities where they're not apt to change very easily or not open to change. And then there are those people who are very open to change, embrace change, and their personalities are an ongoing fluid nature where, they can adjust and adapt and, to different crises that happen in their life, to different things going on in their environment. They're able to deal with loss in a more productive way versus being, dealing with things in a rigid manner. Dealing with professions in a more fluid manner, being able to deal with change in life. I mean, especially now with the information age, you have to deal with a lot more technology, buttons, software updates. Look at this ad. You have to be adapted all these different cords and batteries running out and different screen lighting and focuses and, this, that, and the app, the shortcut, the long cut. I mean, there is so much that is required now to be adaptive. So those people who are rigid oftentimes are going to get more aggressive or, lose their temper, lack of patience. They're going to launch into that rage or that aggression. And not to say that technology is going to make a psychopath out of a borderline, but there is an overlap oftentimes where, you see, similar symptoms for different diagnoses or personality types where they might tend to. For example, someone with a back pain can have arthritis as well as a pulled muscle, or someone with neck pain can have degenerative disc disease, but they might also have, multiple sclerosis. So, you can see this overlap of symptomologies. In other words, what presents versus like what's kind of like going on underneath. So, yes, we do, oftentimes the females are more apt to be labeled as something else, as narcissistic or borderline, if they have this sort of aggressive streak. And that is, up to them. Anyone who is seeking to change, really has to want change. In other words, they're going to say, this, I am done with this. Please show me what to do to better my circumstance. I don't want to end up here. I don't want to end up there. I want better for myself. So it's that openness to change and the openness that they need help and to be able to receive help oftentimes is a very new experience. And so there's people who are, not hardwired for those, the stubbornness we say, are going to be more adapt to change and, improve their life status and then, create healthier relationships than those people who are truly have hardwired problems and, like the hardwired psychopath or borderline. So it really is up to the individual. And thank you so much for your question. It is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. I hope that these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.